Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Laurel of Laurel's Plants. I had a goal coming into 2025 to start a plant YouTube channel. If you enjoy that sort of thing, welcome. I am super excited to share this with you and for us to just enjoy the hobby and the fulfillment that we get from it. So I've always been around plants in my life. My mother was very big into landscaping. We lived in an old farmhouse and it had a lot of landscaping area around it. And that was our tradition every year. We would go to the greenhouse and buy tons of flowers that we would then plant all over the front of the house. And then in the fall, it was absolutely gorgeous. It would be almost jungle-like. So that appeal has always been there for me. And I didn't really do much with plants. I had a few through college, but I moved so much. You know, plants don't like to move. So I wasn't really big into it until I got into my own place. This place here, this is the largest my collection has been. I've been here for about 2.5 years, so it took off. Within this last year, I expanded my variety in my collection as well. I was really big into spider plants. They were just so easy to propagate, and I had a lot. And then something happened and they all died on me. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I wasn't as in tune with my pest treatments and I hadn't really researched that yet, and I think something got them all. So that allowed me to create more space for more variety in my space, and here we are. Another reason I wanted to start the plant YouTube was to join and hopefully cultivate my own plant community. I am based in Minnesota in the Twin Cities, so if there's anyone local that also wants more plant friends where we can talk plants, meet up, and maybe share and trade plants, that would be fantastic. So if that's something that interests you and you're within the area, please let me know. I am looking for more plant friends. I will apologize as well. With my goal to start Plant YouTube in 2025, I wanted to start at the beginning of January. However, it is now the middle of January, possibly the end of January by the time this video reaches you, and I have been sick the entire time. Like, I don't know how much it shows up on camera of how nasal I am, but I've been sick since Thanksgiving. So that kind of delayed my process a little bit, but here we are. Please bear through it with me. I apologize. In the future, videos will be better, I promise. This shouldn't last much longer, hopefully. To start off my channel, I wanted to give a plant tour, show some of my plant successes, some of my experiments, some failures, and some things pending. We're not really sure where they're at, but yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to start my plant tour over in this corner. Here's my balcony right here, and then the plants extend all along this wall. But I'm going to start in this corner and move that way just because I am a little bit process-based and it just makes sense. To start off with, I have this Dieffenbachia. I don't have the exact ID. I can research it and put it on the screen here. But this I received from an old coworker who moved and didn't want to take her plants with her. So she gifted me a single Dieffenbachia, which has now grown and propagated. I've propagated into, I believe I have 2 plants and 1 propagation in some water. So this plant is a bit interesting because I have it in a 6-inch pot currently, but there's only 2 stalks in here. Since the stem was really thin down at the bottom, like it was very tiny, and then thick up at the top, I decided to extend using some plastic and some sphagnum moss. This is a tactic I saw from Claire from the Jungle Haven, one of my favorite plant YouTube creators. This helps the plant to grow new roots in these lower stalk areas. I just recently implemented this method to try it out, so I'll let you know how that goes at a later date. This is one of my many pothos plants. I originally started with 3 cuttings from my parents' office space way up in North Minnesota. Oh, and a marble queen from a friend who was downsizing their collection. I believe this is these are all propagations from that marble queen that my friend gifted me. So As you can see here, they have this beautiful, beautiful fenestration. I absolutely love the fenestration on these. It's just very satisfying. Unfortunately, some of them do revert back, which is why you see the green, but I don't really mind the combination of the green and the marble. I just think it's overall a very beautiful and easy to grow plant that is very fulfilling. You will see a lot of these in this tour. I have a few different experiments where I have some growing up moss poles, I have some growing up just regular cocoa coir poles, some just trailing. It's all just for the sake of experimentation, and to have the same plant, but to have it grown so differently changes it completely. So I am in the beginning stages of those experimentations, but I'm sure throughout our journey together, as I post more videos, you guys will see an update. Here is my current biggest Monstera deliciosa. This is, and always has been, one of my favorite plants. They're just so fun to grow. I have it on a moss pole here, the D-shaped moss pole, which is just some wire across the top, and then you have it in a D shape. I don't have it filled all the way up to the top just because the plant isn't there yet and I don't need it to be all the way up to the top. I just like to keep it 6 inches or so above the plant because those roots can grow upwards as they're extending into the moss pole. This is one that I purchased from a big box store. It was a bunch of little plants in a pot, and then I separated them out because I wanted them to grow independently, and I wanted to see what would work best and what's the best method that I liked as in my collection. So this is one of many. There is another one that I butchered, if you will, for experimentation's sake, mind you. I'll explain the reasonings when we get there. But this is my current tallest one, and it does have some fenestration, just the littlest bit right here. I'm hoping the next leaf that she does put out has more. I am exploring on rearranging this space so then this light here, it's a Sancy bulb, is able to hit the top of these leaves a little bit more because Monsteras will fenestrate when they get enough light. If they stay in this juvenile stage like this with the solid green leaves, it is just, they're not getting enough light. So, we will see. Here I have another Monstera deliciosa, and I thought about potting this with some of my other ones. However, this one is a bit more sentimental to me. It was from a coworker at my past job, and so, you know, it just has those memories. It was in my office for a while, and then now with my job I currently have, I work from home, so I have all these plants in my office, but I didn't want to combine it because it does have some sentimental value and memories of my time at that workplace. So she's not on a moss pole just because I wanted to get her a little bit more established and freestanding on her own. She had started to topple over because she got a little bit taller, but as you can see, that leaf jump, this was the second most recent leaf and this was the third most recent leaf. So she jumped up a size whenever I got her staked. So she might get transferred to a moss pole soon. We'll see. Continuing on with our Monstera obsession, there's this weird guy. So this was actually, at the time, my biggest Monstera with the best fenestrations, and I decided to chop her up. Why, you might ask? Well, first of all, I hated the moss pole. It was when I was really experimenting with moss poles and seeing what worked and learning about them, and it was just the wire circle with moss pushed into it, and it was a terror to water. Water would go everywhere, and I didn't like it. That's when I swapped over to the D-shaped moss poles because the plastic prevents water from dripping out the back, and it helps keep it up front and keeps them moist longer. So this plant, I have the cuttings further down, you will see. And the reason why I kept 2 leaves of growth on her and kept her on the moss pole was in here, the roots are extensive. And I started seeing this right here and here, all of this new growth you can see started whenever the plant was full, and I wanted to give those little growths some opportunity, and I wanted to see what would happen. And they actually have grown since I chopped off the top portion. So I wanted to chop and see what happened with those. Stay tuned. Next, I have one of my many alocasias. This has been a variety that I've gotten into within this past year, and I really, really like them. I was a bit scared to try them at first because I didn't have a humid enough environment for them when I initially learned about them. However, since then I had gotten a humidifier and decided to take the leap. I was not sure, it was from a big box store, I was not sure of the ID. However, I did post him on the Alocasia Enthusiast Facebook page and got an almost unanimous silver dragon, I believe. And currently I have it mislabeled on here as a nebula because I tried to self-ID, and looking at pictures and comparing them to your plant are not always the best tactic. But this setup here is actually something that I wanted to try. It is a layer of leca with sphagnum moss and then the soil. And then there is a cord running through all of this that brings the water up into that soil layer. I was a little bit worried about this tactic just because I was concerned the roots would stay wet too long and start to rot. However, she is doing very well with this. She has a new shoot coming up here, right there, and she is putting down roots into that leca layer down past the sphagnum moss. All of those roots are actually doing beautifully from what I can see. So we're gonna keep letting her do her thing in this experimental potting and update later. This is one of my many ogre ears. Let's see, it's ogre ear chrysula, however you may say it. And these are just super fun. They are a succulent, and I have it directly underneath the Sancy Grow Light here. They have never given me much fuss. I have 3 other ones over there within some other grow setups, but I really like these, and actually, while they are very slow to propagate, you can propagate from these stems here. I do enjoy my succulents, but they are just very slow propagating, and I love propagating, so I don't have as many full succulents. I've got a lot of propagations in progress, but so this is a silver squill. I named him Steven! His name is Steven! If anyone has watched Steven's Universe, that's what that's from. Steven! It just makes me happy. So, and this plant is just so unique, and it does make me happy, so that's where his name comes from. But I actually got this on Facebook Marketplace around Halloween. And it was from a lady who was downsizing. She was moving, so she had a lot of propagations, but I just love the texture and the pattern on these leaves. And he's also very, very quick growing. As you can see, he has his main stem here, and then he's got this stem coming out from the main stem, and then these additional shoots coming from the root system. Just a super cool plant. He is up high because they are toxic to animals, and Reggie hasn't come out yet, but he is my dog. He is my sweetest boy. He's currently napping, doing his own thing. He doesn't like when mom messes with her plants, but. So this is my silver squill. Super cool plant that I was not expecting on getting. I was there to pick up another plant, and she asked me if I also wanted to purchase one of these, and it intrigued me. So here we are. It's just super cool. This is one of my few carnivorous plants within my collection. I've heard her referred to as a ping. I will put the name on the screen, but they are a carnivorous plant that the bugs land on the leaves and they actually eat the bugs. As anyone does with their plant collections, they do have plant pests, and so I wanted to take care of some of the flying plant pests and just have some growing pest control in my collection. So butterwort is what I know it as, and it seems that they extend by the root system, so they'll have little groups of growth. So this here is my Dieffenbachia. I believe it is a Cool Beauty. It is another Facebook Marketplace purchase, but a super beautiful white variegation on these leaves. And I do believe they would grow similar to my larger Dieffenbachia, but I really like him in this nice little foliagey arrangement. It's super pretty, and I'm not in a hurry for him to size up. I really enjoy how this looks, especially with this white pot to accent the white variegation. Very beautiful, a very easy plant as well. I just water when it's dry, and it seems to do its own thing. Very similar to the larger Dieffenbachia. They're very easy. As long as you don't eat them, life is good. They're very highly toxic to people and animals, so please make sure if you have any Dieffenbachia, no munchin'. No munchin', don't do that. But that's also why I keep this up here out of the range of Mr. Reggie Man. Now this is one of my absolute favorites. This is my Alocasia Jacqueline, and well, we're not gonna mind this. Don't look at this. This is her oldest leaf that she is shedding. I've managed to keep her with 3 leaves. I think I need to do a bit more fertilization with her, and hopefully that would solve her sloughing off the 4th leaf after she puts up a new leaf. But look at the size of this newest leaf. Like, it is gorgeous. I adore this plant. It has such a cool texture. If you take a look, some people refer to it as the texture of a cat's tongue. So it does catch a lot of dust and debris. However, they are just so beautiful. I don't mind cleaning them off and examining them. She is in this self-watering pot that I purchased her in. This is a plant that I got for my birthday. I went plant shopping and was left unattended and came home with this. I love this. And she's been continuing to size up, and so I have been allowing her to do so and just seeing what happens. I hope that she continues to grow for me. I think I might have to repot her soon. A lot of her roots from this self-watering pot are finding their way down into the water reservoir, and if you look at the bottom of the pot, she is very root happy. I'll have to figure that out one of these days. However, I'm not in a hurry. I love her as she is. She is beautiful, but I think this guy might have to get chopped off here soon. So I do have a few plants that I am fostering for a friend, so I won't be showing you those because I can't say that I grew them and I've been caring for them. It's only been about a month that I have been caring for them, so we'll see how they go. This one here is a peperomia. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. It sounds like I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's just because I'm so nasal right now. This is the obstifolia. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but it is so cute. This was another big box store buy. I just thought it was so cute, and I love the reddish of the stem and then the bright green variations of the leaves as well. Super cute. It's really happy with where I have it, directly underneath the grow light, but down a ways. And I haven't done much with it. I will probably try and propagate this soon just to see what I can do with it, but very cute. Just adorable in this crazy plant lady mug. So within the box here, you will see this is one of my furry succulents. Let's see, I did just figure out the name. Oh, I just found out the generic name, which I'll put up here. I don't know exactly the variety this is, but I have 2 of these. There will be one that you'll see later, but this one is a propagation from that other one, and it is just so cool. It's so nice and furry. Super easy to propagate as well. You can just cut the stem, remove the lower leaves, and stick it back into soil. So that's what I've been doing with this. And I will be sharing some of these soon with my mother, I think. And anyone else who would like some? Just super quick, this is just a single little pothos. I just have it. I might combine it with a larger pot soon, but it's just a non-variegated little pothos growing. I believe it started from a wet stick, so that's why it's so small. It doesn't have the original larger leaf from the propagation because he was just a short little stick with a node back with 3 leaves. Nothing too interesting there. I just have a lot of these little propagations around that I need something to do with that I just haven't sat down and done yet. So moving down into the shelf that all those plants were sitting on, this is my succulent station, if you will. I've got a lot of succulents propagating here, and I will show you and walk through that. In here we have some jade succulents. Super cute. These were just from this single leaf here. And I have quite a few of these. Super easy to propagate. They just take forever, which is totally fine. I'm okay with waiting. They can sit in that shelf and simply exist if they would like. But I have plenty of those. This original leaf had some sunburn, as you can see. I had the jade outside for a while before I really knew what best care practices that they liked, and he was just out getting scorched in the direct sunlight, which he hadn't been previously, so it was just a bit of a shock to him, and I think he got sunburned, even though they do like bright light. So I learned that lesson, but luckily not too many leaves were harmed, and some of them I could still propagate. This propagation of the ogre's ear, Crassula, as you can see, there is the old leaf and then the new growth there, as well as a new growth here that was originally with a leaf, but I think that did dry up and sloughed off. I also have quite a few other small leaves in here. This is just where I lay them out and I mist them every once in a while. Some people like to mist, some people don't. You don't have to, because the moisture actually comes originally from the succulent leaf that is putting out the babies. But I just like to, I think it helps them grow a little bit faster, but I mean, who actually knows? Sure, someone does, not I. I like to think it does, and it allows me to be a little bit more involved with my succulents because they're so hands-off. So this right here, this is a super cute little rosette. I don't know the actual names for these. There's so many succulent varieties. Forgive me for not knowing the exact names of these, but super cute. I love the colors. Another succulent pot here under bright light. Once again, I mist it every once in a while, so then I can feel like I'm contributing towards their growth. Now here, yes, this is the lid of that. We use everything here. We repurpose. Here I have a bunch more succulents that are a little bit farther along. This was actually a cutting from my grandfather's lake cabin. It was about this big when I took it from the ground, and then I just propagated it and it grew roots, and it's been having some nice new growth here. As you can see, there is a bit of damage in that old growth, and that was from it living outside before I rescued it. Same with this. This is also from my grandfather's lake cabin, where I just took like 3 stem cuttings and planted them, not really knowing what to expect. It grew really well, and I've been continuing to chop and prop it. And here you can see, right here you can see there was where I cut it there last time, and then actually from that cutting it did stem out 2 more growth points. I am just going to continue chopping and repropping the ends of these, so then I can continue with that growth and get it in a wider and wider pot and just create a nice full bushy plant. Here is one of my little succulent arrangements. This is all from propagations that I've done, and this is a little dish that I thrifted from Goodwill. I love Goodwill, and there's just so many nice little dishes, and I found that I have more success with succulents when they don't have drainage. I'm just very careful about the amount that I do water. I just love the rosettes and the different little succulent propagations. Once it's summer, these are going to go outside, and I'm going to see how far they get and just how wonderfully they flourish. This is another kind of propagation station slash holding area. So I've got some propagations that I had started from leaves here. This succulent right here I have cut, and he's got a little tiny, I'm not sure if you can see it, little tiny bud coming up from the side to continue growing. And I do also have a few leaves in there, as well as this one here. This plant in the middle is actually 2, but it all comes from the one middle cutting that I have chopped, and it just grew out from the sides like that. We're just letting her do her thing. because eventually what I want to do is create more of these where I have these nice little dishes and then I can give them away as gifts to friends, because succulents are the easier plants if the individuals aren't overwaterers. And then I have, so this little guy is just growing from that single leaf, and this is actually from this one here. But you can grow them from leaves as well, and that's where this little guy came from. So continuing to prop. Now we have my infestation. I bought a Mother of Thousands plant this summer, and now I have 1,000,000. I'm too much of a propagation fiend to be able to refrain from taking the little babies off the leaves and propagating them. So now I have 1,000,000. And I tried to sell them on Facebook Marketplace, but I don't think the demand is high enough. Right now, they're just my experiment plant. So I have a few around where I was growing them. Okay, it's not doing well. I'm going to chop it here, see what happens. And, you know, there's quite a few interesting things happening. It's just my experiment plant. I want to find something really cool to do with them and gift them to people, or maybe sell a few on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not sure yet. We're just enjoying the nice green layer that we have. So this is one of the Fosters. I'm not going to show you this one because she did not move well. She did not. But we are on the road to recovery, and we will see how we do later. Plant care is not always successful, and that's okay. So here is a little tiny baby. This is a propagation from another leaf, and I know it's a little bit big of a pot for it, but I just thought it was so cute, so he's in this little pot. That's okay. So this guy looks a little bit interesting. One of my friends, he works as an electrician. He was in some lady's home fixing some wiring, and she had this massive cactus. He mentioned that his friend really likes plants, and she's like, oh my gosh, let me give you a cutting. The cutting, she actually gave him 3 cuttings about this long from her cactus. It is a euphorbia. I believe it is just the plain green version. The name I can put on the screen. You know where those ended up? Against a window underneath the curtains. So one survived, and by the time he realized that he still had it, it was in some soil, in some plastic cup, and it was leaning against the window and got fried. So that's what this damage is here. He finally delivered it to me like a year later. I was growing it, and I started giving it a regular care routine and all of that, and that's when it started with these branches. This is actually the top cutting. Since there was so much damage on the parent plant, I wanted to see what would happen, and I researched into it. It showed that you could chop up the euphorbia and it would regrow from the cut pieces, and I wasn't sure how successful this would be due to the amount of damage here. It is just dried and withered. So I just decided to chop it and see what would happen, and this is the top cutting. The other cuttings are elsewhere as of now, but we've got some new growth up at the top. It's got some of those little babies up here, and it's got one down here, here, and there. So it's got 4 arms on this. I chopped it about a month ago. It hasn't been dying. I wouldn't say it's thriving. I'd say it's probably still in recovery from the chop, but we'll see how it goes. So moving along, we were just over here at my succulent station. Now we are here along my, I call it my quarantine, but it's also a high-powered light for succulents as well. And a lot of this shelf here is the succulents that I am fostering for that friend. Well, I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but I will show you my plants from this section. First off, this is one of my recent purchases. It is a Scandipsis Silvery Ann. Very juvenile yet, but super cute. I have a larger Scandipsis. It is an Exotica. Don't quote me on it. And that is the one that actually started my admiration of Scandipsis. I'd never heard of them before. And then I was shopping for my birthday, and I talked to one of the plant store owners. They were like, oh, they're actually very similar to pothos. And I was like, wow, I love pothos. So I picked up the Scandipsis exotica, and now I have my eye out for some small plantlets of other varieties. Facebook Marketplace came through, and this is a Scandipsis Silvery Ann. I'm excited to see her grow. I haven't done much with her. I wanted to allow her to adjust to the new space, and she's been pest treated. She's just currently in a little quarantine still, just in case. The rest of that shelf is my friend's plants, so we're not going to go through that. But over here, this is actually my most recent purchase. Facebook Marketplace, I love it. And this is one of the plants that I have had my eye out for. And I eventually found it on Facebook Marketplace within my goal price range, just because I'm trying not to buy new plants unless it's a wish list plant and it's under a certain budget. This is a Philodendron Silver Sword. Just brought it home yesterday. I just love the colors of the leaves when they get to be more mature. Right now, this leaf is a little bit damaged from transport. I actually picked this up on my way to volleyball. It was within the same area, so I just picked it up on my way by. The thing is, it's about 10 degrees outside, so you can't leave it in your car. I just was toting this plant with me as I'm going to volleyball. I bring in my emotional support plant, and then we went out afterwards for food, and here's my plant right on the table. So, me and my emotional support plants. The seller just had it growing in sphagnum moss. She is rooted extremely well. I'm gonna have to give her a few days to adjust to the new environment, you know, throw her fit if she's going to, but she seems to be doing fairly well. And these actually grow to have very large, beautifully silvery, bluish tinge on their leaves. That's what drew me to it. It doesn't get some super large fenestrations that I know of, but I am excited to see how I can grow it within my space, and I'm going to decide if I want to put it on a moss pole or if I want to let it trail, if it will. We'll see. I know a bit about it. I don't know too much, but along the lines of the philodendron, I'm fairly comfortable with that variety, so we'll see what we decide to do with her at a later date. Another one of my recent purchases, I was in a plant store getting some plant supplies. I think I was picking up leca, and I found a clearance rack. And yes, please. I love growing plants from when they're small. I don't like to buy large plants that are already established, because they don't adjust well to my space, I found, if they've been in a greenhouse environment. And I find that I like to grow with the plant. So I learn more about it, and I learn what it likes, what it doesn't like when it's young, and I like growing and cultivating it into a large plant. That's just my preference. I want to start them young and grow them and have that pride of that plant, rather than just getting a plant that's already established and big and kind of slower growing and just having it in my space. I want to be able to work with them and help them grow. So I found a clearance section at this plant store. I have a nerve plant, a Photonia, in my aquarium setup. However, I did not know that there was other varieties of this, and I found a bright pink one, if it'll focus. Just a beautiful dark leaf with that bright red or pink vein through it. I just think it is so beautiful. I'm going to repot this one soon. He is a little bit root bound, but he was on clearance and I couldn't say no. I mean, it's practically free. That's the mentality, isn't it? But I picked this one up. I actually picked up a few of them just in these little tiny little pots. I am not opposed to growing them, and especially if they're on clearance, I will take the chance. So this is one of my prop boxes. I'm not going to go into it at this time, but I have some Monstera or Philodendron Addisonii cuttings in here, and that mother plant is in a different area of the house. I have some cuttings there that I want to start growing up, say maybe a moss pole. I'm not quite sure yet. They have just been propagating in the prop box with some sphagnum moss in order to create the ideal environment, as well as I have some philodendron heartleaf philodendron in here, and some Dieffenbachia stem cuttings to try and get those to root and grow. We'll explore that another day. Next, we just have this small section, this guy. I'll put the name on the screen, but I'm not entirely familiar with it. It was a friend's purchase who really liked it and got sold on it by the guy running the shop. I don't know much about it. I water it, it is currently flowering, and then we will see what happens. I will probably have to do some more research on it, but it is a super cool plant, not gonna lie. It's got this pink, I don't even know what to call it. This actually isn't the flower. The flowers come out from each of those, and it has been continuously flowering up these stems, but the flowers only last a few days. Super cool plant, also super hazardous. They're a little sharp, but once this is done flowering, I'll have to research into what to do with this. But it is currently existing and being pretty in my space. I'm allowing it to be here and do its thing, and we'll go from there. Back here is my money tree, super easy to grow. I have it in a little bit of lower light setting just because it doesn't have as high of a light demand. I'm sure it would thrive a little bit better in higher light, but he's just doing his thing, and I am trying to continue to braid it, but it is a little harder than what you'd think just because of all the growth, and you know, I've been keeping it trimmed so it doesn't get so full and bushy. I might just stop trimming it and let it grow because the braided portion of it, I don't have a preference either way. And I would prefer to see a bushier, healthier plant versus having to prune the new leaves and prune the leaves that don't follow the guidance of the braid. So I might just let it go off and see what happens. It's doing what it can with what it has, and it's doing it well. So we are allowing it to just do its thing. Here I have my Raven ZZ plant. Now, I purchased this summer, and I don't know. He has not done a lot. I know they are notoriously slow growers, but I would expect him to do at least something in the 7-8 months I've had him. But he's not dying, so that is something. I just love these really, really dark leaves. They do require a lot of cleaning though, just because of the dark color and the dust that gathers on it. It does get a bit dusty, but super cool plant. I gotta stand in front of it so you can see it. It's actually from one of my favorite mobile plant shops in the Twin Cities. Roots, Shoots, and Leaves is their name. It's ran by two gentlemen that are super enthusiastic about plants, and I always love finding them. And I tend to keep up with them and follow their Instagram page where I can see where they're going to be next, just to go pop in and buy a little baby plant from them because, you know, they love plants. I love plants. I view them as people that I want to get to know. Here is another one of my pothos. This one I tried to put in, ooh, stink bug. This one I tried to put a moss pole in, and this is just a little container to water. I tried to put in a moss pole to grow it on, but the way I planted it originally, the vines were just kind of growing in all different directions. So I'm trying to train some of these to wrap up and around the pole, because then I can extend the pole and have it be a tall plant. However, I'm just allowing some to trail as well, just to get some of that trailing action. But this is a little bit of a larger variety. It does have some very, very small amounts of variegation, and I believe it's a golden pothos. Actually, this newest leaf has the most amount, if you can see that here. The lighting is not great. I apologize. We've moved away from the window, and it is a bit of a gloomy winter day. This is just one of my larger pothos that they have quite a, a bit larger of leaves here. You can see that. Maybe I can hold it against myself. It's about palm size, and we're just letting him do his thing. My pothos are sort of my filler plants, where I can put them wherever I need a plant to aesthetically fill the space and make it more of a decor than a growing space. But yeah, this guy, I'm going to continue growing him around and around in the pot and try and get him up that moss pole, but we'll see how it goes. So moving on, we do have this upper section here, and there is a shelf below. but I'm going to apologize. My lighting is going to get worse and worse the farther away we get from the dim window, as well as a little weirder with these lights up here, but it will be better in different sections of the apartment. So this section here, I have these grow lights, which are a little bit more of the blue light. I'm not sure exactly the benefit of these lights, but if you buy grow lights on Amazon, some of them have the blue red light, some of them have the white light. So I just have this light, and I have plants here that seem to do okay with it. That's what we have for now. Up here I have some more of my friend's foster plants, but one of the plants I have up here is actually this little propagation. You can see, sorry, the lighting is not fantastic, but you can see the little propagation in the sphagnum moss. One of my Facebook Marketplace purchases, there was a philodendron micans, and when I went to repot that after I had it in my space for quite a while, it actually had a wet stick that had not rooted yet. So I separated it out, and then I put it in a humidity propagation box. This is what came out. So it is unclear to me if it is a micans as well, or if it is possibly just a heartleaf philodendron. I can't see the velvetyness that I see within the philodendron micans, but it also does seem to have the sheen they do, so I'm not sure yet. We're just gonna let her continue growing and see what happens, and then we can ID her from there. Down in this section, here's just a hanging succulent that was given to me as a gift, and I've just been chopping and propping. It used to hang over the sides, and I kept knocking off the leaves, so I just chopped him and then put those ends in the soil. So here he just is in this little hanging pot. I should probably do something else with him, but for now, he's happy here. This is another pothos propagation. Like I said, there would be many. And this one is actually a marble queen as well. You can see the white marbling. Once again, a lot of them are very experimental, and I'm actually playing around with seeing how the variegation goes, because like this leaf here has some variegation, not too much, and then on that same vine this leaf here has no variegation, but this new leaf that's coming up, I can see that there will be variegation on it. So I'm just waiting and seeing and tracking how they progress and how that variegation acts. So it's kind of an experimental plant. This is one of my mother of thousands experiment. I have so many babies of these mother of thousands because they grow along the leaves. I just start throwing them in a jar. That is what I'm doing. You can see the 3 main plants in there, well 4 or 5 actually, and I simply have just been throwing in the babies on the sides and allowing them to grow, and whatever happens in there happens. And that is where we're at with the mother of thousands. This is what I'm excited about. This is a philodendron mayoi, and it is from the Roots, Shoots, and Leaves mobile plant shop that I mentioned. They're from the local Twin Cities. This one is just so cool. Currently it is trying to crawl along the ground. I might have to get it on a support pole soon. I might have to do a little bit more research, however, to see how I want it to grow, how I want it to establish itself. But it does have some new growth right here. So he's coming up. This was his latest leaf. I had him underneath this Sancy grow light, and he hardened off like this with that curl. So then I moved him to a bit of a more gentle light situation. Hopefully this next leaf will be bigger, and then will also harden off, not curled underneath. Oftentimes when you get that curling of the leaves, it does mean that there's too much light. So I'm hoping that I can get that fixed with the next leaf there. Like I said, I'm on the philodendron and alocasia train lately. So I just think it's a super cool plant, and once it matures, it'll be a really cool leaf. As you can see, it already has those spikes almost, and that will continue to get more drastic as it matures. This one is a Facebook Marketplace buy. This is my philodendron McDowell. So these leaves actually get massive, and I believe it was a tissue culture propagation, but this guy is doing beautifully, and eventually this will actually trail along the ground, so this will be likely in a rectangle pot that it can then spread almost. It's got some new growth right here. So I'm excited to see that new leaf, and once again it is curling under. I think my philodendron, they can't deal with the Sancy grow lights, or at least where I had them. So I have moved a lot of them over to this area where they can get a little bit of a softer, less aggressive light. But this one I'm super excited to grow really large and see what happens with him. That's really its redeeming factor, is just how large those leaves get. And eventually, hopefully, I'm in my own place at that time and not in a small apartment, so I can accommodate for the size of that plant. And these are actually some propagations from my ZZ plant. I'm not sure how they're doing. They don't seem to be thriving, but they're also propagations, so that host leaf does die after a while, but I don't know. I also have heard that it takes a long time, like a year, to grow from a propagation for a ZZ plant. So we're just seeing what happens. And then quickly, this is just another pothos. I have this heart trellis that I have been training him along. And here is the newest growth points that I actually have met in the middle now. And I'm going to continue trailing this around this trellis and just seeing how he does. I think it's kind of a nice decorative plant, if you will. I do believe this guy is a marble queen, or maybe potentially a snow queen. He does not have the white per se. It has more of the light green in the variegation. Let's see, there you can see it a little bit better. But it does tend to get a little lighter on the newer leaves, so I'm not quite sure what that might signify. Oh, here we go. With some of the mature leaves, it does have the marble queen variegation. Yeah, with just some of those newer leaves, they are a little bit more of a lime green than a white, so perhaps when they harden off from that new leaf, they will have more of the white color. We'll see. All right. So under here we have some of my Amazon grow lights. They are quite a bit stronger. I have downloaded this app. You can get a reading on the strength of the grow lights and at what point the plants need them at. I don't know how accurate it is. However, I can tell using those measurements. I can say this light is stronger than this one. I just don't know how accurate the foot candle readings are, but that's okay. I don't necessarily need to. I just listen to my plants, and when they see signs of being unhappy, then I just change their situation and change their lighting to a different strength and go from there. It's a lot of experimentation, but I'm okay with that. So within this section, this is one of the parent jade plants right here. Here, hopefully we can find some better light in here. But this jade plant was originally given to me by my coworker, who then moved and didn't want to bring all of her plants with her. And it was originally in a low and shallow pot, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I don't really like this plant. But then I got clued in on the fact that they actually can become like trees if they're in a deep enough pot. So here I actually put it in a deeper pot where it has more room for that root growth, and I learned how to trim it and get it to be able to branch out more. So I actually really like this plant now that I understand it, and that's my plant journey with a lot of my plants. You know, it's just about understanding them and learning what they like, and so they can grow to their full potential or grow how you would like them to. So this one is actually the parent of quite a few of my propagations, those little ones I showed you, and I also have another larger one of these as well. Here is another plant that got me in the clearance section. The lady at the desk did not know what it was, but then I did a little bit of research, and Google told me it was a painted lady. So it is a philodendron. Super cute. I love the colors within that leaf. If it says philodendron, I'm game. I'm down to try it. So another one that got me at the clearance section was this little bright yellow philodendron. And Professor Google showed me it was a philodendron golden crocodile, which is super cool. I'd never even heard of that one, but I'm here to try it if I can get a plant on discount and it's a little bitty baby and I can grow it and learn with it. So I thought that one was really cool as well. Here is the other Dieffenbachia that I do have. This one has been struggling. So this one has been struggling with spider mites, and that one over by the window has not. Believe it or not. They were in different areas of my house, so I'm guessing, you know, some of the exposures were different, which is totally fine, but you can definitely see that this one has a bit more damage. I recently cut back the main stem right here. Not sure if you can see that. Just to get a better start. He was really leggy. He didn't have a lot of growth unless it was near the top. His leaves kept falling off. So I just decided to chop and prop, and he is currently in a propagation jar to grow new roots, and I will plant him back in this pot once he has those secondary roots established. But yeah, this one has a lot of the babies around the edges. I really like that as they're growing from the root base, and I just think it's really cool, and I want to continue to let this one to kind of bush out, so maybe it can get like that philodendron or that Dieffenbachia cool beauty, but we will see. He's kind of my experimental guy, and that's okay. Within here as well, we do have some more of my ogre's ear. I've got 3 in each of these, and they're super close to this light, so they get a lot of highlight, and we're going to see how well they do. I know they do appreciate some strong light, so we'll see. They oftentimes go outside during the summer, so I will allow those to survive now, and then during the summer they'll probably take off, and I'll decide what I want to do with them then. And this here is my croton. This was a gift. I did not know what to do with this plant. All I knew about them is that they love spider mites. Well, no, spider mites loved them. They don't love spider mites. They don't, no plants do. But I had this in a corner until I did some research and realized they really high light. I had neglected this guy, and I am sorry. But now I have him under this strong light, and he actually has some new growth points coming out from those stems. Also, this one may have fallen from my 3rd floor balcony onto the ground. So, it's been through a lot. I am so sorry. It's fine. So what's left of him that has survived the fall and the spider mites and many rounds of spider mites, he actually does have new growth coming up from his stems, and he's a little heavy, so I'm not going to try and show you. He just has been on survival mode, and finally now I'm just trying to give him a little bit of TLC so then he can do what he's meant to do. And he will likely go outside during the summer, so then he is a little bit easier to manage. But for now, he is in this space, and I'm trying to keep him not touching any of my other plants. That's one thing you will have noticed. I don't like my plants touching. So that's why I like the shelving system versus an indoor cabinet, just because pests happen. No matter how many plants you have, pests will eventually happen if you have them long enough, obviously. And I like to isolate if I can, to allow for that quarantine if necessary without infecting the rest of my plants. This is my humidity corner, if you will. I've got my humidifier over here, and I apologize, it is so dark. I had to put my ring light. You will see it reflected in my glasses. Tried to avoid it, but unfortunately when the lighting is bad, the lighting is bad, except for the plants. So over in this corner, I do have my wooden shelf here, and then I also have this makeshift shelf that I made. Starting from the top, this is my reverse variegated spider plant. So he Does not have, the spider plants I had in the past had the white stripe in the middle. This one has the white stripe on the outsides. So this one I think is super cool. I think he needs a little bit of water. He's a little bit droopy, but my forever love for spider plants. I'll always have a few in my collection. So this is one of the few that I currently have. Another pothos. Marble Queen, once again. So, and I'm just allowing this one to trail and just be in all of its beauty and just enjoy it. So, what? Another one? Yes, another pothos. This one has pretty much reverted completely back, but it doesn't have the marbling. It has more so the splotch. So I think that means, I'll put it on the screen. So there are a bunch of pothos on that shelf that I'm not going to go through and show you. I've already shown you like 5 of them. I have a lot, but they're nice fillers and I enjoy growing them. I love my vining plants, so it is satisfying for me to be able to grow them. They are one of my favorites to mess around with, experiment with, and to see how I want to grow them and have different plants, like the same plant but different plants because they're grown differently, you know? So this is my Scandipsis exotica, I believe. This one made me fall in love with Scandipsis. I didn't know these existed and now I love them. I think they are such a cool shape, texture, and pattern on these leaves that are just so weirdly satisfying. So I have been growing this one and taking some cuttings of the vine to be able to share with others, and it's just a very easy grower. I have it in more ambient light on this shelf. It gets light from that side and this side, and so I just let it be and it grows and thrives and continues to vine out and provide more opportunities for me to propagate, which I always appreciate. Now this is one of my favorites. This is my Alocasia Black Velvet. I got this from, I believe, Target originally, and it was my very first alocasia. I did not know what to expect. I had no knowledge of alocasia, and now it's still one of my favorites just because of the size of the leaf. So as you can see, I've only managed to be able to keep 3 leaves on this, same as my Alocasia Jacqueline, so maybe there's a pattern there, but this last leaf, it got hardened off with this curl in the leaf, as well as it ripped whenever it was just emerging from the stalk. I tried to pull it out. I'm not gonna lie, I did. I'm a little bit impatient in that way, but that leaf after that was a beautiful size, and then this latest one is gorgeous. Like, it is just so beautiful. I love the color, the texture. It is a velvety texture, as well as the veination here. Just so striking. And it actually has a new shoot coming up, so hopefully we will have another leaf to show soon. I'm excited to show you. We do have another pothos down here, which I'm not going to bore you with, but up here I would like to show you another Monstera deliciosa. I know. However, this is my weird one. This one has always grown a little odd. Starting with the oldest leaf, it has this wrinkle right here. And I was like, okay, that's odd. Next leaf was absolutely tiny. I think that's when I separated it out from the original bunch of leaves. And then this one, such an odd shape. He's a little wet. He was right next to the humidifier, but a very weird shape, as well as that wrinkle. The one after that, very weird shape, and the wrinkle, I believe, actually got leaf ripped. So just a very weird shape. And then the newest leaf, once again, very odd shape. There's the wrinkle right here, just right on the edge of the leaf, but still a wrinkle. So I don't know what's up with this plant. I don't know why it's wrinkling. I think it's just the genetic of this individual plant, but I'm really interested to see what she does next. So she's just my weirdo, and I like it. Just a little bit different, and that's okay. We're gonna see how she does, and I think I might get her onto a moss pole soon, just to see if I can get her to size up and see what happens. I am very intrigued, to be quite honest. This is the middle cutting of the Monstera deliciosa that I cut up. So she's got quite a good size to her leaf there. And she has 2 leaves on this stem. And this is the majority that was still in the moss pole. So I simply put the whole thing into leca, which you can see here. Sorry, the lighting is very harsh. I'm trying to get it so you are able to see the plants. But she does have some roots here. And then this is the reason why I did not get the roots out of the moss pole. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there are roots running up and down the back of this pole, like up, down, sideways. It's a little insane. It's a little hard to see, but I wanted to see if I could continue growing this plant on the moss pole itself. So we are seeing what happens. Yeah. Now, these are the top cuts from that Monstera. It has some beautiful fenestration here. And unfortunately, this was the one that I chose to change the, oh goodness, there we go. Change up the process of how I was doing the moss poles, and the old moss pole bothered me. But this is the top cutting. I have him sitting in some leca with the base. He did have a root probably about 1 inch or 2 long, so we're seeing how this guy does, and he's just gonna live in this vase probably for quite a while. But he's just so pretty. Like, I'm not mad about it. I really like these leaves, and I'm okay with them being a little bit more of a decorative piece for a while versus an actively growing, quickly growing plant. This here is also a Monstera deliciosa with a lot of little baby cuttings. This is actually kind of a plant rescue. My mother had a Monstera that was really long and leggy. Like, the vine never got much thicker than this, but the leaves were all about this size. Like, it was just not very large at all. It was not happy. It was not getting enough light. So I asked her if I could chop it up, and she said yes. So here are the results of the stem cuttings so we've got some new growth from auxiliary nodes, as well as some wet sticks that I have for her from those pieces of the stem that did not have a leaf, but they had a root node. So this is the process of regrowing her Monstera to get it to be a nice full plant, and to tell her to not put it in a massive pot when it is tiny. We'll get there. We're all learning together. I just recently, well, last year is when I got more into Monsteras and learning about them, so then I could make sure that they are thriving. So we are seeing how this develops. Once I get this on a moss pole and get all of this trained, then I might give it back to her in a pot the correct size, so then she can enjoy it and hopefully find a place with better light for it. This beauty is my original of the other one I showed you. I will put the name on the screen. I don't know the exact name. However, it is just going wild. I purchased it as a pot like that was this big. It was maybe about this tall, and it absolutely will take off if you give it the space. It's super easy to propagate. You just need to chop off the top and it will grow new stems and continue dividing itself and just create this wonderful like carpet look of succulents. It's one of my favorites and very low maintenance as well. This here is one of my experiments. It is a string of raindrops, and I have these containers that will hang. I don't currently have it hanging, but these string of raindrops really do propagate easily. So I just recently put him in here because I want him to trail out and down, and these will actually be hanging on my balcony this summer. So we're just prepping for the summer plants. He looks a little rough right now. I just transplanted him, so he's dealing with that trauma, but once he is done, I am excited to see the results. One I just about forgot is another Monstera deliciosa. There's probably 3 to 4 plants within this one, and it is a little bit slower growing. They were a lot of the smaller ones in the batch, so these are well on their way. I put them all in a moss bowl. I want these to grow together to get them to be a bit thicker. They haven't fenestrated yet, but we're working on it. We're getting there. So I have swapped around to my kitchen side looking out at my plants. You can see the entire plant collection there. And here is my wall between my kitchen and my living room. Yet again, another pothos. Sorry, not sorry. Here we have my heartleaf philodendron. I originally got this. I stole a cutting from my parents' office. It was a single stalk that I then propagated. I have been taking cuttings from and continuing to grow it more and more full. About a month ago, I just chopped off all of the growth. As you can see, there was the cut point, if it will focus for me. The cut point was right there, and then the auxiliary node was activated, and so it is growing new growth there. And each of the stalks in here are in the same boat. They all have the auxiliary node being activated from the cut I did a few months ago. So I'm just trying to work on this plant to get it a lot more full and vibrant. Here is one of my original spider plants, what is left. Pretty sad, but we are working through it, and she actually does have plenty of healthy growth here, but we will see what she turns out to do. Not quite sure. And here is my Philodendron Brazil. This is one that I had on my list for a while, just not because it's rare, but because I just think it is so beautiful. I love the green stripe that goes through in some of these occasional bright green leaves. I just found a new appreciation for philodendron, and this is just a simple and common one, and finally found one at a price range that I was okay with paying. This is one of the newer ones to my collection. Love this. You can see some new growth here. He's well on his way. He's adjusting happily. He's been pest treated, so we're sitting pretty good. Here we have my makeshift setup on top of Franny's cage. I will go through these items. It will be a little bit more of a handheld function, so I apologize if it is a little bit shaky, but we'll go through those. But I will walk through those plants here that are mine. So this up here is my friend's Monstera, but we're not going to talk about that. That's not mine. We will talk about the plants that I do own from this section. So once again, another pothos. We're not going to talk about how many I have, but then over here I have this Philodendron Birkin. Super cute plant, super cool texture to it. It has a lot of things going on, that is for sure. It's also a very compact plant. As you can see, it grows almost two-dimensionally is the wrong way to put it. However, I think it is such a cool one with a really cool texture. I like this guy. Very easy grower. Next is my Transcantia Nanook. Love this plant. Super easy to propagate. I have been chopping and propping. I originally got this from Root Shoots and Leaves in the Twin Cities. She has been absolutely thriving and sending out long stalks that I have then been chopping and propping and repotting back into her pot. I might chop this soon to be able to then create more plants of this and allow all of this to be at the same level, but we will see what that turns into. This is my watermelon peperoma. It is a very cute, and oh, we've got a very, very dark green leaf there. I used to have one of these that had a little bit more of the color within the veination. However, I did unalive it before I knew a lot more about plants like I do now. Haven't done a lot with him since I purchased him, but I wanted to try this variety again. Moving along, we have my friend's aloe plant and then this propagation wall as well, but that is the amount of plants in that space that are mine. Next, we're going to look at my aquarium setup. This is one of my favorite installations within my apartment, and because it holds all of the humidity within itself. So all of those plants in there create a very humid environment. The setup that I have, it's a large tank. It's got some acrylic plastic up at the top with a fan, so then everything does not get moldy, stagnant, anything like that. So I'll go through these items and pull them out for you to see. So here's how we get into it. And the first one I'll show you is my Begonia maculata. Here she is. She is one of my favorite unique plants. It's just such a different look for a plant with the polka dots, and it grows in such different ways than a lot of the other plants that I'm used to. I just adore this plant in terms of its growth patterns and abilities. It is just a super cool plant that I really enjoy. I'm still figuring it out. A lot of times I lose the new growth, and from what I've learned, it's because it needs more water. They do like to stay damp. So you can see here just that gorgeous, gorgeous polka dotted leaves. These are some of the older ones, but the new ones, they come out in a super unique way. Right here, you can see this is how the new growth emerges from these little stem sheaths, I guess. I don't know what you exactly call them. Come out super pink and just really, really like a newborn baby. Just a super cool plant. I love how they come out almost like flowers. Here is a juvenile leaf to show you for an example in comparison to a more mature leaf. They are a nice light orange pinky color until they harden off, and then they turn this green. Next I have this rattlesnake calathea. I absolutely adore this plant. We've had our ups and downs. This was gifted to me once again by the old coworker who moved. She gave it to me a very full plant, and all the leaves were about this size. It slowly declined until I did a lot more research and figured out that they, like to stay moist and they need some humidity. That's one thing, they like their humidity. But now that I figured it out, it has a lot of new growth where, yes, they are smaller, they are slowly sizing up, and we are getting back to our former glory. We're a super cool plant. I love the patterns. And then the backs of the leaves are these really cool purple maroon color. Moving along, here is my, I'm not quite sure how to say this one, Calocasia esculenta. These apparently get a really thick stem and then they continue to upsize and leaf. I think this might be the variety called the elephant plant, where these leaves get really big. However, I just got him as a small propagation, and we're learning to see what he likes to do in what environment. I figured out that this lower lighting environment with higher humidity does a bit better for him. He does have some yellowing on the tip here from overwatering. I may have to change his soil out to a better draining soil, but I think he's more along the lines of an alocasia, or maybe a variety of alocasia. I'm not entirely sure. It is something I still have to research. It is a cool little green plant as of now, and I'm hoping to get him upsized within the coming years and continue to have him thrive. But we just figured out a space that he likes, so we'll go from there. Now this I am super proud of. This is my very first corm propagation from my Alocasia Black Velvet. It has, so this was the very first leaf. It did harden off a little bit, curled down, and I moved it to the farther back of the tank where there's a little less lighting. And here is the newest leaf. With my research, I've read that you need at least 2 leaves to then change the substrate that it's in. My other Alocasia Black Velvet is in soil currently, and I would love to try this little guy in some semi-hydroponics with pond. This guy will get moved to pond here eventually. We will see how he does in that environment and how he grows. Stay tuned for updates on this little guy. This is my Peperomia Hope. This one was also from the shop Root Shoots and Leaves. That is that mobile plant shop. I just thought it was so cute, and I love how it produces the stem of 3 leaves at a time. It'll focus. It produces the 3, and then it continues on with its growth. Oh, this one actually has 4. But the older leaves you will see have 3 each. And I actually got a bonus leaf. I didn't realize this one was not attached to that original stem, but this one was actually a leaf that had fallen off and was just placed in the pot when I bought it. and he's got some additional growth here. So I think we'll have a lot of fun propagating this guy in the future. He was just a little slow to grow, and I had to find out the situation that worked best for him. That's why he ended up in the tank with the high humidity, and he is doing very well. Now this plant is my Philodendron tortum. I really wanted this plant, and I got him the same time as I got the McDowell. He has not done a single thing. He has not died. He also has not lived. So we are unsure what we need to do with this. It was a tissue culture from the gentleman that I bought it from, and so it may have something to do with that aspect. I am not sure. We are currently just waiting and seeing and hoping he doesn't die. I placed him in the lower light with the high humidity because he didn't really seem to appreciate the high light. He kept curling under, so we will see on this one. These are my most recent corm propagations. I think there is one black velvet corm, and I have 3 alocasia mellow corms, and I'll show you the alocasia mellow here in a second because I repotted him into a semi-hydroponic setup and harvested the corms. This little beauty is my alocasia mellow, a super cool texture to him. He is also sort of like almost a 3D printed plant. He only has the 2 leaves, but I just recently potted him into semi-hydroponics, and he is quite happy in this setup now. Before, he just really was not doing well, and I felt like he kept getting overwatered in soil, and his leaves kept dying, so I harvested back all of the yellowing leaves. He has just put out, this is the original leaf, and then this is the newest leaf. So he has upsized, which means he's happy. There's no additional shoot yet, but it has only been a month since he's been in the semi-hydroponics, and he's already put out that new leaf. So we'll be patient. Here we have another Hoya. I can put it on the screen. This is another big box store buy, so he did not do anything for a very long time. I wasn't sure if he was going to. However, just recently he has started putting out this new stem as well as some new growth up there at the top. Everything else you can see has been cut off, so I might have to do something different with this guy and do a little bit more of an upkeep, but he has been surviving as it is and putting out this new growth. I think I have a bit more exploring to do for him to thrive. Now, this is one of the last survivors of my original spider plant collection. As you can see here, there's just a stem with a lot of roots and then this new growth. Eventually, the decline was so bad that I just simply chopped him right at the stem and watered him. But now you can see all of this new growth here that he's been popping up. I'm hoping that the situation had been resolved with whatever was going on with this plant, but we will see in the future. But as of right now, all of his new growth does seem very healthy, and we're gonna stick with that hope that it is clear sailing from here out. And this is my original nerve plant. I got him in a very small container. Was warned that they are very particular. If you know anything about Phottonia's nerve plants, they are dramatic. If you don't water them, they will go limp. But luckily, you can water them and they perk right back up. So very, very dramatic plants. Love the white venation here. It is so beautiful, and he has been growing and happy, especially in my aquarium here with the high humidity. I found that I haven't had to water him quite as often. His leaves have actually been sizing up as well, so we are seeing some success with this one. I have some ideas on what to do with this one for a really cool setup and how to grow it. However, I am really happy with how he is growing now. So I think I'm going to stop here today. I have just had quite a few coughing fits throughout this recording process, and there's an itch in my throat I just cannot get to go away, and I feel like I've been becoming more and more nasal as we continue. Excuse me. So we will take a pause, and hopefully I will get to show you the rest of the plant collection in another video, but I feel this is more than enough. I have so many plants and so many stories attached to all of them. Like I said, I am an over-explainer, and this is just a hobby that I really enjoy and find fulfillment in, and I want to take my time with it. So if you would like to stay tuned for more plant videos, I know I don't have much quality content up yet. However, if you subscribe and like, that will help me know that the content that I'm putting out there is wanting to be seen and you're interested in seeing more, and I'd be happy to have you follow along my plant journey with me. Thank you.